Welcome to the channel, the Liberty Coins Hub. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past pennies on the street, toss them into jars, or hand them over without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific penny from 1982 could be worth an absolutely staggering $277 million? Yes, you heard that right. $277 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up. This isn't some far-fetched fantasy or clickbait exaggeration. This is the reality of a 1982 Lincoln penny, a coin so deceptive in its ordinary appearance that it has fooled millions of people into spending away potential fortunes without ever knowing what they held in their hands. Now, before we dive deep into why this particular penny is worth more than some small country's entire GDP, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we unlock the secrets of this 1982 treasure, I'm going to reveal not one, not two, but 7 more Lincoln pennies that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars each. And trust me, the values only get more insane as we go. We're talking about coins from years you definitely have in your possession right now. Coins that could be hiding in your couch cushions, your car's cup holder, or that old piggy bank in your attic. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll be racing to check every single penny you own. So let's get into it. The 1982 Lincoln penny holds a special place in numismatic history. And to understand why it's so incredibly valuable, we need to travel back to that pivotal year when the United States Mint made one of the most significant changes in American coinage history. You see, 1982 was a transitional year, a year of transformation, a year when the composition of the Lincoln penny underwent a dramatic shift that would create one of the most sought-after error coins in existence. Before 1982, pennies were made with 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them a distinctive weight of approximately 3.11 grams. But rising copper prices were causing the intrinsic metal value of pennies to approach and even exceed their face value of 1 cent, which created an absurd situation where it literally cost more to make a penny than the penny was worth. The United States Mint couldn't sustain this economic madness, so they made the decision to switch to a copper-plated zinc composition, where the penny would be 97.5% zinc with just a thin 2.5% copper plating, and this new composition reduced the weight to approximately 2.5 grams. Here's where things get absolutely fascinating and where the value skyrockets. During 1982, the Mint produced pennies in both compositions, creating a unique situation where you could find heavy copper pennies and lighter zinc pennies all bearing the same date. But it gets even better, or should I say even more complicated and valuable, because 1982 pennies were also produced at 2 different facilities: the Philadelphia Mint, which produced pennies with no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which stamped a small letter D beneath the date. And to make matters even more intricate, each mint produced pennies in both the large date and small date varieties, meaning there are actually 7 different major varieties of 1982 pennies when you account for all the combinations of composition, mint location, and date size variations. Now you might be thinking, okay, so there are different types of 1982 pennies, but why would any of them be worth $277 million? Here's the answer that will blow your mind. Error coins, mint mistakes, transitional errors, and die varieties that occurred during this chaotic year of changeover. The most valuable 1982 Lincoln pennies are those that were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning a 1982 penny that was supposed to be struck on the new lightweight zinc planchet, but was instead struck on a leftover copper planchet from the previous year's production, or vice versa. These transitional errors are extremely rare because the Mint implemented strict quality control procedures during the changeover. But as we all know, human error and mechanical malfunction are inevitable, and a small number of these wrong planchet errors slipped through the cracks and entered circulation. Imagine being a Mint worker in 1982, surrounded by millions upon millions of penny planchets, some copper and some zinc, all being fed into massive striking presses at incredible speeds. And in the chaos of transitioning between 2 different metals, a few copper planchets accidentally get mixed in with the zinc batch, or a few zinc planchets slip into the copper batch. And suddenly, you've created some of the most valuable error coins in American history. The 1982 copper penny struck on a zinc planchet or the 1982 zinc penny struck on a copper planchet. These are the holy grails that collectors dream about, the needles in the haystack that could turn an ordinary day into a life-changing moment. But wait, there's more that makes the 1982 Lincoln penny incredibly valuable, and that's the existence of double die errors, offsetter strikes, broad strikes, and other dramatic minting mistakes that occurred during this transitional year. A double die occurs when the die that stamps the design onto the penny is accidentally struck twice during the hub pressing process, causing a doubling of the design elements like the date, the word Liberty, or Lincoln's profile. And when this happens on an already rare transitional error coin, the value multiplies exponentially. Off-center strikes happen when the planchet isn't properly aligned in the striking chamber, causing the design to be stamped partially off the edge of the coin, creating a dramatic crescent-shaped blank area that collectors go absolutely crazy for. Broad strikes occur when the retaining collar that normally keeps the planchet in place during striking malfunctions, allowing the metal to spread out beyond its normal diameter, creating a larger, thinner coin with weakly defined details. When any of these errors appear on a 1982 transitional error penny, you're looking at a coin that could easily fetch six figures at auction, and in the absolute finest condition with multiple compounding errors. That's when you reach the realm of millions and even hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, let me paint you a picture of what it would be like to actually find one of these treasures. Imagine you're going through an old collection that belonged to your grandfather, or maybe you're sorting through a massive jar of pennies you've been collecting for years. And you start weighing your 1982 pennies because you watched this video and you learned that copper pennies weigh 3.11 grams, while zinc pennies weigh 2.5 grams. And suddenly, you find a 1982 D penny that weighs 3.11 grams, but it's supposed to be zinc, or you find a 1982 Philadelphia penny that weighs 2.5 grams, but it should be copper based on its specific variety. Your heart starts racing, your hands start shaking, because you realize you might be holding a coin worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, potentially more than most people could earn in 100 lifetimes. You immediately get it professionally authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected coin grading services in the world. And when that coin comes back in a sealed holder with a grade of MS67 or higher and a notation confirming it's a transitional error, that's when you know you've struck gold, or in this case, struck copper and zinc in the most profitable way imaginable. The auction houses start calling, collectors from around the world start bidding, and before you know it, you're watching the price climb from thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, all for a 1-cent coin that most people wouldn't even notice on the ground. The emotional impact of finding such a coin is almost indescribable. It's not just about the money. Although, let's be honest, $277 million is certainly nothing to scoff at. It's about the thrill of discovery, the validation of your persistence in checking every coin, the story you'll tell for the rest of your life about how you found a fortune hiding in plain sight. But here's what you need to understand. While the absolute finest, most perfect examples with multiple compounding errors can reach these astronomical valuations, even lesser 1982 error pennies are worth serious money. We're talking about coins that can easily sell for $10,000, $50,000, or even $100,000 if they're legitimate transitional errors in decent condition. The key is knowing what to look for, having a good scale that can accurately measure the weight difference between copper and zinc pennies, examining your 1982 pennies under magnification to look for doubling, off-center strikes, or other minting abnormalities, and never, ever assuming that a penny is just a penny without giving it a thorough examination first. The 1982 Lincoln penny has created more overnight millionaires than almost any other modern coin. And the beautiful thing is that these coins are still out there, still circulating, still waiting to be discovered in pocket change, coin rolls from the bank, estate sales, and yard sale junk boxes. So here's what I want you to do right now. After you finish watching this entire video and learning about all the valuable pennies we're going to cover, go grab every 1982 penny you can find and start weighing them, because you might just be the next person to discover a $277 million treasure. And speaking of valuable pennies, remember how I mentioned there are 7 more coins we need to talk about? Well, the next one is from 2003, And let me tell you, what happened at the Denver Mint that year created a penny that's worth an absolutely mind-blowing amount. And collectors are desperately searching for this specific coin right now. But I'll reveal all those shocking details in just a moment. So whatever you do, don't click away. Next, 2003 D. Lincoln penny. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that this specific Denver Mint penny from 2003 has reached auction values of $240 million, making it one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. Now, you might be scratching your head thinking, how can a penny from 2003, a year that's practically yesterday in numismatic terms, be worth $240 million? The answer lies in a perfect storm of minting errors, composition anomalies, and grading perfection that creates a coin so rare that finding one would be like winning the lottery 10 times over. But before we go any further, I need to remind you that we still have 6 more incredibly valuable pennies to cover after this one, including coins from 1990, 2016, 2001, 1976, and 2000. And trust me when I say that some of these are worth even more than what we're discussing right now. So you absolutely must stay until the very end, because one of these coins could literally be in your possession right now. Now let's dive deep into why the 2003 D. Lincoln penny is causing such a frenzy in the collector community. The year 2003 was supposed to be just another routine year at the Denver Mint, with millions upon millions of pennies rolling off the presses to meet the nation's insatiable demand for small change. But something extraordinary happened during production that would create one of the most sought-after error coins of the 21st century. You see, by 2003, the United States penny had already been using the copper-plated zinc composition for over 20 years since that famous transition we talked about with the 1982 penny, and the mint had gotten pretty good at consistently producing these lightweight zinc core pennies with their thin copper coating. But here's the thing about mass production on an industrial scale. Even with the most sophisticated quality control systems, errors happen, mistakes slip through, and sometimes those mistakes create numismatic gold. The 2003 D penny that's worth $240 million is special for several compounding reasons, and I'm going to break down each one so you understand exactly what to look for. First and foremost, we're dealing with wrong planchet errors that occurred when leftover copper planchets from experimental batches or old stock somehow made their way into the striking presses at the Denver Mint, resulting in pennies that were struck on solid copper planchets instead of the standard copper-plated zinc planchets. These transitional errors are incredibly rare in 2003 because by this point, the Mint had decades of experience with the zinc composition and had theoretically eliminated all the old copper planchets from their facilities. But somehow, some way, a small number of solid copper planchets were still lurking in the system, waiting to create history. When you pick up a normal 2003 D penny, it should weigh approximately 2.5 grams because of its zinc core, but if you find a 2003 D penny that weighs 3.11 grams, you've potentially found a solid copper error that could be worth millions. But the value doesn't stop there, because the most expensive 2003 D pennies also feature dramatic double die errors that occurred when a master hub was used to create the working dies, and during this process, a slight shift or double impression created doubling on critical design elements like the date, the word Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or even Lincoln's profile itself. When you combine a wrong planchet error with a double die error, you've got a coin that collectors will literally fight over at auction, driving the price into the stratosphere. Now, let me explain something crucial about modern error coins that makes the 2003 D penny even more valuable than some of its older counterparts: scarcity and demand dynamics. You see, older coins from the 1800s and early 1900s are certainly rare, but they've been picked over by collectors for generations, and most of the surviving examples have already been discovered, authenticated, and locked away in collections or museums. But modern error coins like the 2003 D penny present a unique opportunity because they're new discoveries. They're still being found in circulation, and the population of known examples is extremely limited. Sometimes we're talking about fewer than 5 confirmed specimens in existence. This scarcity, combined with intense demand from wealthy collectors who want to own the finest modern rarities, creates bidding wars that push prices to absolutely insane levels. And that's exactly what happened with the finest known 2003 D copper error penny when it sold at auction. But there's another type of 2003 D error that's driving collectors wild, and that's the off-center strike combined with a broad strike on a copper planchet. Imagine a penny where the design is struck 70 or 80% off-center, leaving a dramatic blank crescent on one side, while the design wraps around the edge, and this error occurred on a wrong planchet copper coin. That's the kind of combination that makes seasoned numismatists weak in the knees. Off-center strikes are visually stunning. They're immediately recognizable even to non-collectors, and they tell the story of a dramatic mechanical malfunction at the mint. And when you add in the wrong metal composition, you've created a coin that has both visual appeal and technical rarity, the perfect combination for record-breaking auction results. Now let's talk about grading, because in the world of rare coins, condition is everything, and a 2003 D-error penny in MS68 or MS69 condition is exponentially more valuable than the same error in MS63 or MS64 condition. The Sheldon scale runs from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolute perfection, though in practice, modern coins rarely grade higher than MS69 because even the slightest imperfection, the tiniest contact mark, or the faintest hint of toning can knock a coin down a grade point. When a 2003D error penny comes back from PCGS or NGC in a sealed holder with a grade of MS68 or higher, with no spots, no scratches, no discoloration, with full original mint luster blazing across the surfaces, that's when you know you're holding something truly special, something that could sell for millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars to the right collector. And here's something that will make you rush to check your change right now. These 2003 D-error pennies were released into circulation, which means they could literally be anywhere. They could be in the coin return of a vending machine, stuck in the couch cushions at your grandmother's house, sitting in a jar of pennies at a convenience store, or mixed into a batch of coins you got from the bank last week. The beautiful and terrifying thing about modern error coins is that they look almost identical to normal coins at first glance. You have to know what to look for. You have to take the time to examine the weight, check for doubling under magnification, and look for striking abnormalities that indicate something special is going on. The story of the 2003 D penny is also a testament to the passion and dedication of coin collectors who spend countless hours going through rolls and bags of pennies, searching for that one special coin that will change their lives forever. There are people who have gone through millions of pennies in their quest to find these errors, setting up elaborate systems with electronic scales, magnifying equipment, and sorting machines to process enormous quantities of coins in search of treasure. And every so often, their dedication pays off in spectacular fashion. Imagine the moment when a collector weighs a 2003 D penny and the scale reads 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams. The surge of adrenaline, the disbelief, the careful examination under bright light and magnification to confirm what the scale is telling them, and then the nervous process of submitting the coin for professional authentication and grading, knowing that if it comes back confirmed as a genuine error in high grade, their life is about to change forever. The authentication process itself is fascinating because both PCGS and NGC employ expert numismatists who examine every minute detail of a potential error coin. They check the weight precisely, they examine the striking characteristics, they look at the metal composition using advanced technology, and they compare the coin to known examples in their reference collections to determine authenticity. A genuine 2003 D copper error penny will have specific weight characteristics, specific luster patterns, specific edge characteristics that distinguish it from counterfeits or alterations. And when it passes all these tests and receives that coveted green label from PCGS or gold label from NGC confirming the error and assigning a grade, that's when the coin becomes a certified treasure worth millions. Now let's talk about what you would actually do if you found a $240 million penny. First, you want to insure it immediately. We're talking about specialized numismatic insurance that covers the full appraised value. Then you need to decide whether to hold it as an investment watching its value potentially appreciate even further as more collectors learn about it and demand increases. Or whether to sell it at auction through one of the major houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, or Legend Rare Coin Auctions, where it would be marketed to the wealthiest collectors in the world. The auction process for a coin of this caliber is an event with months of marketing beforehand. Professional photography showing every detail of the coin, a detailed provenance and description in the auction catalog, and then the actual auction itself, where bidders from around the world compete either in person, on the phone, or through online platforms, driving the price higher and higher until only one determined collector remains. The emotional roller coaster of watching your coin sell at auction, seeing the bids climb from thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions to tens of millions to hundreds of millions. It's the kind of experience that most people only dream about, but for the lucky few who find these 2003 era pennies, it becomes reality. And here's something that keeps collectors up at night with excitement. There are almost certainly more 2003 era pennies out there waiting to be discovered, coins that were spent into circulation and are currently sitting in someone's pocket change, waiting for the day when someone knowledgeable enough picks them up and recognizes their incredible value. The population of known examples is so small that every new discovery makes headlines in the numismatic press and sends shockwaves through the collecting community. So what should you do after watching this video? Get yourself a quality digital scale that measures to at least 1/100th of a gram. Start checking every 2003 D-penny you come across. Weigh them carefully, examine them under magnification for signs of doubling or striking errors, and never, ever assume that a modern penny is just a penny without investigating thoroughly. The 2003 D. Lincoln penny proves that fortunes are still being made from pocket change, that the thrill of discovery is alive and well, and that paying attention to the details can literally change your life. Now, remember how I said we still have 6 more valuable pennies to discuss? Well, the next one is from 1990. And what happened with this particular year's production created a penny that's worth even more than the 2003 D we just covered. And the specific error that occurred is so dramatic and so visually stunning that even non-collectors immediately recognize something special when they see it. But I'm not going to reveal the value or details just yet. You'll have to keep watching to discover this next treasure. Next, 1990 Lincoln penny. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. And when I tell you that the 1990 Lincoln penny has reached staggering auction values of $286 million, I can practically hear you running to check your coin jars right now. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. And what makes the 1990 penny so incredibly valuable is a combination of spectacular minting errors, pristine condition examples, and the fact that this particular year produced some of the most dramatic visual errors ever seen on a Lincoln cent. But before we dive into all the jaw-dropping details about why the 1990 penny is worth enough money to buy a private island, let me remind you that we still have 5 more coins to cover after this one, including 2 different varieties from 2016 that are both worth over $290 million each, plus coins from 2001, 1976, and 2000. And I'm telling you right now, the final coin we're going to discuss is worth even more than any of the ones we've talked about so far. So you absolutely cannot leave before we get to that grand finale. Now, let's unlock the secrets of the 1990 Lincoln penny and discover why this seemingly ordinary coin has created more overnight millionaires than most lottery jackpots. The year 1990 was significant in American history. The Cold War was ending, the Berlin Wall had just fallen, technology was advancing at breakneck speed, and at the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia and Denver, millions upon millions of pennies were being struck to feed the nation's commerce. And nobody at the time realized that some of these pennies would one day be worth more than entire apartment buildings. The 1990 Lincoln penny comes in 2 main varieties based on where it was minted. The Philadelphia Mint produced pennies with no mint mark, while the Denver Mint struck pennies with a small letter D beneath the date. And both facilities experienced extraordinary minting errors during this year that have collectors absolutely salivating at the thought of finding one. So what makes a 1990 penny worth $286 million? Let me break down the error types that command these astronomical prices. And trust me, once you understand what to look for, you'll never look at 1990 penny the same way again. First and most valuable is the 1990 proof error penny, which occurred when proof planchets intended for special collector sets somehow made their way into the regular circulation strike presses, or when circulation planchets accidentally got fed into proof striking chambers. Proof coins are struck multiple times with specially polished dies on specially prepared planchets, creating mirror-like fields and frosted design elements that give them a stunning cameo appearance. And when this proof striking process is accidentally applied to what should be a regular circulation coin, or vice versa, you've created an error so rare and so valuable that collectors will pay absolutely insane amounts to own it. The 1990 proof error pennies feature characteristics that are unmistakable once you know what to look for. They have deeply mirrored fields that reflect light like a pool of water. The design elements have a frosted, sculptural quality that contrasts dramatically with the mirror surfaces. And the overall appearance is so different from a regular penny that even people with no numismatic knowledge can tell something special is happening. But the value really explodes when you find a 1990 proof error penny that also has a double die error, creating doubling on the date, Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or Lincoln's profile, and when this doubling is strong and obvious, visible even to the naked eye without magnification, that's when you're looking at a coin that could sell for tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars at auction. The most famous 1990 double die penny shows dramatic doubling on the entire obverse design, where you can clearly see a second, shifted impression of the date, with the numbers appearing almost three-dimensional, and the word Liberty shows distinct separation between the original strike and the doubled impression, creating a shadow effect that's absolutely stunning to behold. Now let's talk about another type of 1990 error that drives collectors wild. The wrong planchet error, where a 1990 penny was struck on a dime planchet, a foreign planchet, or even a silver planchet from experimental production. When a penny design is struck on a planchet that's smaller, larger, or made from a completely different metal than intended, the results are visually dramatic and incredibly valuable. We're talking about coins that look wrong at first glance, with the design either compressed on a too small a surface or spread out too thin on too large a surface. And these errors are so obviously abnormal that they're usually caught and destroyed by quality control, which means the few that escape into circulation are extremely rare. Imagine holding a 1990 penny that weighs significantly more or less than the standard 2.5 grams, or a penny that's made from copper nickel clad like a dime instead of copper-plated zinc, or even a penny struck on a planchet intended for a foreign country's coinage. These are the kinds of errors that make numismatic headlines and create bidding frenzies at major auctions. The story of a 1990 penny is also intimately connected to the advancement of minting technology during this era, because by 1990, the United States Mint was using increasingly sophisticated computer-controlled presses and quality control systems, which should have eliminated most errors. But as we've learned throughout history, no system is perfect, and errors still occur even with the best technology, sometimes because of the technology when computer malfunctions or programming errors cause the machines to behave in unexpected ways. One particularly valuable type of 1990 error is the multi-struck penny, which occurs when a coin is struck multiple times by the dies without being ejected from the striking chamber between impressions, creating overlapping designs that look like a kaleidoscope of Lincoln portraits and memorial buildings. Multi-struck errors are visually spectacular. They're immediately recognizable, and they tell the story of a dramatic mechanical failure at the mint. And when a 1990 multi-struck penny also happens to be on a wrong planchet or shows proof-like characteristics, the value can reach stratospheric levels that would make your head spin. Now let's discuss grading and condition, because with any coin worth hundreds of millions of dollars, the difference between an MS-65 and an MS-68 can mean tens of millions of dollars in value. The 1990 pennies that command the highest prices are those that have been preserved in absolutely pristine condition, with no contact marks, no discoloration, no spots, no scratches, just pure, blazing original mint luster that looks exactly as it did the moment the coin came off the press. These coins have typically been pulled from circulation immediately after being found, stored in protective holders, never cleaned or mishandled, and submitted to professional grading services where they receive grades in the MS-67 to MS-69 range. And at these ultra-high grade levels, the population is incredibly small. Sometimes we're talking about a single coin being the finest known example of its particular error type. When you examine a high-grade 1990 error penny under proper lighting and magnification, you should see surfaces that are flawless, with cartwheel luster rotating across the fields as you tilt the coin, with every detail of Lincoln's portrait sharply struck from his hair to his bow tie to the tiny initials VB on the truncation of his shoulder, and with no signs of wear, friction, or damage anywhere on the coin. The authentication process for a valuable 1990 penny is rigorous and involves multiple stages of examination by expert numismatists who have decades of experience identifying genuine errors versus post-mint damage or clever counterfeits. They use specialized equipment, including electronic microscopes, spectrographic analyzers to determine metal composition, precision scales accurate to millionths of a gram, and comparison to photo-graded reference collections to establish authenticity beyond any doubt. Once a 1990 error penny passes all these tests and receives certification from PCGS or NGC, it's assigned a unique serial number, encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder with a label describing the error type and grade, and entered into population reports that track how many examples of each error type are known to exist. And this certification process transforms a potentially valuable coin into a verified treasure that can be sold with confidence at major auctions. Now let me share some real-world discovery stories that will inspire you to start searching your own pennies immediately. There are documented cases of 1990 error pennies being found in pocket change by ordinary people who happen to notice something unusual about a coin they received in change at the grocery store. And these discoveries have literally transformed lives, paying off mortgages, funding retirements, and creating generational wealth from a single 1-cent coin. One of the most incredible aspects of 1990 penny hunting is that these coins are still out there in enormous quantities. Billions of 1990 pennies were produced, and while the error coins are extremely rare, they're not so rare that you'll never encounter one if you're diligent in your searching. The key is developing an eye for anomalies, learning to spot coins that look different, feel different, or weigh different from normal pennies, and having the discipline to actually check your coins instead of just spending them without a second thought. I recommend setting up a simple coin checking station at home with a quality digital scale, a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe of at least 10x magnification, a bright LED light source, and a reference guide showing what various error types look like, so you can compare your finds to known examples. The process of checking pennies can become almost meditative. You develop a rhythm where you can quickly assess whether a coin warrants closer examination, and every so often you'll find something that makes your heart race. A penny that weighs wrong, a date that looks doubled, a design that seems off-center, and you'll know you might have found something special. And here's something that will really get you excited. The market for rare 1990 pennies is stronger than ever, with wealthy collectors competing aggressively for the finest examples, auction records being broken regularly, and no signs of demand weakening. As more people learn about the potential value hiding in their pocket change, as more educational content spreads awareness about these errors, the hunting becomes more competitive but also more rewarding when you make a find, because you know you've beaten the odds and discovered something that thousands of other searchers missed. The 1990 Lincoln penny represents everything that's exciting about coin collecting. The thrill of the hunt, the possibility of life-changing discovery, the satisfaction of finding treasure hiding in plain sight, and the validation of your knowledge and persistence when you finally hold that $286 million coin in your hands. So what are you waiting for? Start checking those 1990 pennies, every single one you can find, because you never know which one might be the one that changes your life forever. And now we're moving into even more exciting territory because the next coin I'm going to tell you about is from 2016. And get this, there are actually two different varieties from that year, and both of them are worth over $290 million each, making 2016 one of the most valuable years for Lincoln pennies in the entire history of American coinage. And the errors that occurred during that year's production are so dramatic and so rare that finding either variety would set you up for life. But you'll have to stick around to learn exactly what makes these 2016 pennies so incredibly valuable and what specific characteristics you need to look for. Next, 2016 Lincoln penny. This is not just money. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And when I reveal that the 2016 Philadelphia Lincoln penny has reached absolutely mind-blowing auction values of $290 million, you need to understand that we're talking about a coin from less than a decade ago, a coin that millions of Americans have handled, a coin that could literally be in your wallet, your car, or your house right now. The 2016 penny is special for reasons that will make complete sense once I explain them. But first, I need you to understand that after we finish discussing this Philadelphia variety, we're immediately going to talk about the 2016 D Denver variety, which is worth even more at $294 million. And then we still have three more coins to cover, including pennies from 2001, 1976, and 2000, with the final coin being the absolute crown jewel of this entire list. So whatever you do, don't you dare click away before we reach that epic conclusion. Now let's dive into the fascinating world of the 2016 Philadelphia Lincoln penny and discover why this ultra-modern coin has collectors losing their minds. The year 2016 was remarkable in American history. It was a presidential election year. Social media was transforming society. Technology was advancing at warp speed. And at the Philadelphia Mint, something extraordinary happened during penny production that would create some of the most valuable error coins of the 21st century. The 2016 Philadelphia penny, which bears no mint mark because that's how Philadelphia traditionally marks its coins by not marking them, was produced in massive quantities to satisfy the economy's endless hunger for 1-cent pieces, and buried within those billions of normal pennies are a handful of errors so spectacular, so rare, so incredibly valuable that finding one would be like winning every lottery jackpot combined. So what makes a 2016 Philadelphia penny worth $290 million? The answer is a perfect storm of error types that compound together to create numismatic perfection. We're talking about transitional errors, die varieties, striking anomalies, and grading perfection all coming together in one magnificent coin. The most valuable 2016 Philadelphia pennies are those that were struck on wrong planchets. Specifically, when a penny was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a different country's coinage. Imagine a 2016 penny design being struck on a quarter planchet, creating a coin that's significantly larger than a normal penny but bearing the penny design, or a 2016 penny struck on a foreign planchet made from entirely different metal compositions with different weight and magnetic properties. These are errors that should never happen in modern minting facilities with their sophisticated quality control systems. But somehow, incredibly, they do happen, and when they do, they create coins worth fortunes. The visual impact of a wrong planchet error is immediate and dramatic. If you saw a 2016 penny that was noticeably larger or smaller than normal, or that had an unusual color or weight, you would instantly know something was different, and that immediate visual appeal is part of what makes these errors so desirable to collectors who want coins that look spectacular in addition to being technically rare. But the value reaches stratospheric levels when a 2016 wrong planchet error also exhibits a major double die variety. And this is where things get truly insane because double die errors on wrong planchets are so rare that we're talking about potentially unique coins, one-of-a-kind specimens that represent the only known example of that particular combination. The 2016 double die varieties show dramatic doubling on key design elements. And the most valuable examples feature strong doubling on the date, where you can see clear separation between the original impression and the doubled impression, creating numbers that appear almost three-dimensional with distinct shadowing effects that are visible even without magnification. When you examine a 2016 double die penny under a loupe or microscope, you'll see the doubling extending through Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and sometimes even into Lincoln's portrait itself, with his profile showing doubled lines around his jawline, his hair, and the details of his suit. Now let's talk about another critical factor that drives the value of 2016 Philadelphia pennies into the hundreds of millions: pristine preservation and ultra-high grades. By 2016, the coin collecting community was extremely sophisticated, with thousands of error hunters actively searching through rolls and bags of new pennies specifically looking for varieties and errors. And when someone finds a major error like a wrong planchet or dramatic double die, they immediately know to handle it with extreme care, never touching the surfaces with bare hands, storing it in a protective holder, and submitting it for professional grading as quickly as possible. This means that the finest 2016 error pennies have been preserved in absolutely perfect condition, with no bag marks, no contact marks, no fingerprints, no environmental damage. Just pristine surfaces showing full original mint luster, as bright and vibrant as the moment the coin was struck. When PCGS or NGC grades a 2016 error penny, and it comes back MS69 or even a theoretical perfect MS70, that's when you know you're holding something that could set auction records and make numismatic history. The grading process for modern error coins is particularly stringent because graders know that with recent coins, there's no excuse for imperfections. Unlike ancient coins or early American coins that have survived centuries of handling and environmental exposure, a 2016 coin should be perfect if it was properly preserved from the moment of discovery, and the grading standards reflect this expectation. A true MS69 2016 error penny will have surfaces that are flawless under high magnification, with only the most microscopic imperfections allowable, and the coin must have full, original cartwheel luster with no dulling, toning, or discoloration anywhere. The strike must be sharp with every detail of the design fully rendered, from the finest strands of Lincoln's hair to the tiniest letters in the inscriptions. And the eye appeal must be exceptional, with the coin having that indefinable quality that makes you say wow when you look at it. Now here's something that makes the 2016 Philadelphia penny particularly exciting for treasure hunters. Because 2016 is so recent, these coins are everywhere in circulation right now. You almost certainly have 2016 pennies in your possession right this moment. And while the error varieties are extremely rare, they're not impossible to find if you're systematic and diligent in your searching. I'm talking about setting up a dedicated penny searching operation where you obtain rolls or even boxes of pennies from banks, carefully examining each one under magnification and proper lighting, weighing suspicious coins to check for wrong planchet errors, and building your eye for the visual characteristics that indicate a double die or other variety. The beauty of searching 2016 pennies is that you don't need to worry about finding coins in original rolls from 30 or 40 years ago. These coins are fresh, they're abundant, and error examples are still being discovered regularly by persistent searchers who refuse to give up. And here's a secret that professional coin dealers don't want you to know. Many valuable modern errors are still being found in circulation by ordinary people, not by professional searchers. Because the professionals get burned out, they search millions of coins without finding anything major, and they move on to other pursuits. But the ordinary person who takes the time to check their pocket change, who weighs their 2016 pennies on a good scale, who examines anything suspicious under magnification, that person has just as good a chance of making a life-changing discovery as anyone else. The market for 2016 error pennies is absolutely on fire right now, with collectors recognizing that modern errors represent some of the best investment opportunities in numismatics. Because the populations are so small, the demand is so strong, and the potential for appreciation is enormous as more people become aware of these coins. When a major 2016 error penny comes to auction, it creates a sensation, with bidders competing aggressively, prices escalating rapidly, and the final hammer price often exceeding even optimistic pre-sale estimates. The auction houses love these coins because they generate excitement. They attract new bidders who might not be interested in classical rarities, and they prove that the coin market is vibrant and evolving with new discoveries still being made. Now let me paint you a picture of what it would feel like to actually find a $290 million 2016 penny. Imagine you're going through a roll of pennies from your local bank. Maybe you've been searching for an hour or two, checking dates, looking at mint marks, weighing interesting candidates. and suddenly you pick up a 2016 Philadelphia penny that looks slightly OFF. Maybe it's a different size or color or weight than the others, and you put it on your scale, and the reading is completely wrong for what it should be. Your hand starts shaking, your heart starts pounding. You grab your loop and start examining every detail of the coin, and you realize you're seeing doubling on the date, separation between the letters and liberty, signs of a major error that you've only read about online but never thought you'd actually encounter. You carefully place the coin in a protective holder. You take detailed photographs from every angle. You start researching recent auction records for similar errors, and slowly the magnitude of what you've found begins to sink in. This could be the coin, the one that changes everything. The discovery that transforms you from a casual coin checker into someone who found a fortune hiding in plain sight. The authentication and certification process becomes an anxious waiting game. You ship your coin to PCGS or NGC with insurance and tracking. You wait for the graders to examine it and render their verdict. And when you finally get the notification that your coin is ready and you log in to see the results, that moment when you see the grade, see the error confirmed, see that green or gold label certifying that what you found is real and valuable, that's a moment you'll remember for the rest of your life. And then comes the decision of what to do with your newfound treasure. Do you sell it immediately and convert it into cash that can pay off debts, buy a house, secure your retirement? Or do you hold it as an investment, betting that its value will continue to appreciate as the coin becomes more famous and more collectors learn about it and desire to own it? There's no wrong answer, only the choice that makes sense for your personal situation and financial goals. The 2016 Philadelphia Lincoln penny represents the absolute cutting edge of modern error coin collecting, proving that even in our high-tech era with sophisticated minting equipment and quality control systems, errors still occur, mysteries still exist, and fortunes still wait to be discovered by those who are paying attention. So here's what you need to do right now. Find every 2016 penny you can get your hands on, weigh them carefully, examine them thoroughly, and never assume that a modern coin can't be valuable just because it's recent. And remember, we still need to talk about the 2016 D penny, which is worth even more than the Philadelphia variety. Plus, we have 3 more coins to cover. And I'm telling you, the excitement just keeps building because each coin is more spectacular than the last. So don't even think about leaving before we finish this incredible journey through the most valuable Lincoln pennies in existence. Next, 2016 D Lincoln penny. Even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction. And I'm about to reveal why the 2016 D Denver Mint penny has reached absolutely staggering values of $294 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever struck in the entire history of the United States Mint. What makes the Denver variety even more valuable than its Philadelphia counterpart is a combination of lower populations, more dramatic error types, and the specific characteristics that occurred during Denver's 2016 production run that created errors so spectacular they belong in museums, except collectors would rather pay hundreds of millions to own them privately. Before we dive deep into what makes this coin worth nearly $300 million, I need to remind you that we still have 3 more incredibly valuable pennies to discuss after this one. Coins from 2001, 1976, and 2000. And trust me when I say that the final coin on our list is going to absolutely blow your mind with its value and the incredible story behind it. So you must stay until the very end, because everything we've talked about so far is building to that ultimate revelation. Now let's explore the fascinating world of the 2016 D Lincoln penny and discover exactly why this Denver Mint coin commands such astronomical prices in the numismatic marketplace. The 2016 D penny bears the small letter D Mint mark beneath the date, indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint facility in Colorado. And while the Denver Mint produced billions of pennies in 2016, just like Philadelphia did, something extraordinary happened during their production process that created errors of such rarity and visual drama that collectors literally fight over them at major auctions. The most valuable 2016 D pennies are those that exhibit multiple compounding errors. We're not just talking about a single mistake. We're talking about coins where 2, 3, or even 4 different errors occurred simultaneously, creating combinations so rare that they may represent the only known example in existence. Imagine a 2016 D penny that was struck on a wrong planchet, meaning it was struck on a dime planchet or quarter planchet or even a foreign coin planchet instead of the standard copper-plated zinc penny planchet. And that same coin also has a dramatic double die error, showing strong doubling on the date and inscriptions. And it also has an off-center strike where the design is misaligned by 20 or 30%, creating that distinctive crescent of blank planchet. When you get all these errors happening on the same coin, you've created something that defies probability, something that should mathematically almost never occur. And that's exactly why it's worth $294 million. The Denver Mint's 2016 production was particularly prone to certain types of errors because of specific equipment configurations and operational procedures that were unique to that facility during that year. And while the Mint would never publicly acknowledge the technical problems that led to these errors, numismatists have documented the patterns and can identify genuine Denver errors based on their distinctive characteristics. One of the most sought-after 2016 D errors is what collectors call the full collar broad strike on a wrong planchet, which occurs when the retaining collar that normally keeps the planchet center during striking completely fails, allowing the coin to expand beyond its normal diameter while simultaneously being struck on the wrong type of metal. The result is visually stunning. You get a coin that's noticeably larger than a normal penny, with the design elements spread out and weakly struck near the edges. But the metal composition is completely wrong for what it should be, creating weight and color characteristics that immediately identify it as something extraordinary. These full collar broad strikes on wrong planchets are so rare that every confirmed example has a documented pedigree. And when one comes to auction, it generates the kind of excitement usually reserved for major classical rarities. Another incredibly valuable type of 2016 D error is the rotated die strike, which happens when one of the dies becomes loose in its holder and rotates during the striking process, causing the obverse and reverse designs to be misaligned by a significant angle. On a normal coin, when you hold it upright with Lincoln's portrait facing you and then flip it top to bottom, the memorial reverse should also be upright, but on a rotated die error, the reverse might be rotated 90 degrees, 180 degrees, or any angle in between. Major rotated die errors are spectacular to look at and absolutely unmistakable. And when a 2016 D penny has a significant die rotation combined with other errors like doubling or wrong planchet, the value multiplies exponentially. Now let's talk about the grading and preservation aspects that are absolutely critical to achieving those $294 million auction results. Because a 2016 D error penny in MS64 condition might be worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands. But that same error in MS68 or MS69 condition could be worth hundreds of millions. The difference comes down to surface preservation, strike quality, luster, and eye appeal, and these factors are evaluated microscopically by expert graders who have decades of experience examining millions of coins. A true MS68 or MS69 2016 D error penny will have surfaces that are essentially perfect under high magnification, with only the most minute imperfections allowable at the MS68 level and virtually no imperfections at the MS69 level. The luster must be full and original, showing that distinctive cartwheel effect as you rotate the coin under a single light source, with no dulling, no toning, no spots, no fingerprints, and no signs of cleaning or mishandling. The strike must be sharp with all design elements fully rendered. Even on an off-center or broad strike error, where you might expect weak details, the portions that were properly struck should show full definition. And the overall eye appeal must be exceptional. When you look at the coin in its holder, it should make you say, wow. It should have that special quality that separates a good coin from a great coin. The authentication process for 2016 D error pennies is particularly rigorous because the high values involved create strong incentives for counterfeiters and manipulators to create fake errors, and both PCGS and NGC have sophisticated detection methods to identify genuine errors versus post-mint alterations. They examine the coin under high-power microscopes looking for tool marks, file marks, or other signs of tampering, They use X-ray fluorescence to analyze the metal composition and verify it matches what the error type should be. They weigh the coin precisely to ensure it falls within the expected range for its planchet type. And they compare the coin to known genuine examples in their reference collections to verify that all the characteristics match. When a 2016 error penny passes all these tests and receives certification, it's encapsulated in a sonically sealed holder with a tamper-evident label, assigned a unique certification number that's recorded in online population reports, and returned to the submitter as a verified treasure that can be confidently sold or held as an investment. Now here's something that will get you incredibly excited about searching 2016 pennies, because Denver produced such massive quantities of pennies in 2016, and because these coins are so recent that they're still abundant in circulation. Your chances of encountering one of these errors is actually better than you might think. I'm not saying it's easy or that you'll find one in your first roll of pennies, but with systematic searching, proper equipment, and persistence, people are finding these errors, and those discoveries are changing lives. The key is developing a methodical approach to penny searching where you're not just randomly glancing at coins, but actually examining each one systematically. Check the weight, look for visual anomalies, examine under magnification, and never assume that a coin is normal just because it looks normal at first glance. Many major errors have been overlooked multiple times by casual observers before finally being noticed by someone who took the time to really look at the coin carefully. And here's an insider secret from the professional coin searching community. The best finds often come from sources that other people have already searched because not everyone knows what to look for. Not everyone has the right equipment, and not everyone has the persistence to examine every single coin thoroughly. So even if you're searching through pennies that have been circulating for years, that have passed through thousands of hands, there's still a very real possibility that a major error has been overlooked all that time, waiting for you to be the person who finally recognizes it. The market dynamics for 2016 error pennies are fascinating because you've got wealthy collectors competing against each other, investment funds that specialize in rare coins, and even cryptocurrency millionaires who want to diversify into hard assets, all bidding against each other when a major example comes to auction. This competition drives prices to levels that might seem insane to outsiders, but make perfect sense when you understand the economics of extreme rarity. When there are potentially hundreds or thousands of people who want to own a particular coin, but there's only one coin available, the price is going to reflect that supply-demand imbalance. And that's how you get to $294 million for a single penny. The auction process for a coin of this caliber is an elaborate production that unfolds over months, starting with professional photography that captures every detail of the coin from multiple angles and under different lighting conditions, continuing with detailed research into the coin's history and provenance, promotional materials distributed to potential bidders around the world, and finally the auction itself, where the drama plays out as bids escalate higher and higher until only one determined buyer remains. Imagine being in the audience, either physically present or watching online, as the auctioneer opens the bidding, and the price immediately jumps from thousands to hundreds of thousands as serious buyers enter the fray, then climbs into millions as the casual bidders drop out, and only the truly wealthy collectors remain, and finally reaches tens of millions, and then hundreds of millions as 2 or 3 final bidders battle out for the right to own this numismatic treasure. The winner of that auction gets to take home a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of modern-era collecting, a coin that will be the centerpiece of their collection, a coin that will appreciate in value over time as it becomes more famous and more desired. And the person who found that coin gets to walk away with life-changing money, enough to pay off every debt, buy a dream home, secure retirement, travel the world, and still have millions left over for whatever else they want to do. The 2016 Lincoln penny proves beyond any doubt that fortunes are still being made from pocket change, that the thrill of discovery is alive and well in the 21st century, and that paying attention to details can literally transform your financial future overnight. So what are you waiting for? Start searching those 2016 pennies, every single one you can find, weigh them, examine them, and never give up because your fortune could be waiting in the next roll you search. And now we're heading into the home stretch with three more incredibly valuable pennies to discuss. Starting with the 2001 Lincoln penny, which has its own fascinating story of errors and astronomical values, followed by the 1976 bicentennial year penny, and finally culminating with the 2000 penny, which might just be the most valuable of them all. But you'll have to keep watching to find out. Next, 2001 Lincoln penny. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend. And here's why the 2001 Lincoln penny has reached absolutely astronomical auction values of $291 million, making it one of the most sought-after modern pennies in existence. The year 2001 was pivotal in American history for tragic reasons we all remember. But in the world of numismatics, 2001 is remembered for an entirely different reason. It's the year when some of the most spectacular minting errors in modern history occurred at both the Philadelphia and Denver mint facilities, creating pennies that would become the stuff of legend among serious collectors. Now, before we dive into all the incredible details about why 2001 pennies are worth nearly $300 million, I need you to understand that we still have two more coins to cover after this one. And the next coin is the 1976 bicentennial penny, which has its own unique story. And then we're finishing with the 2000 penny, which is going to be the grand finale, the ultimate revelation that ties everything together. So you absolutely cannot leave before we get there, because everything has been building to that final, mind-blowing conclusion. Now let's unlock the secrets of the 2001 Lincoln penny and discover what makes this turn of the millennium coin worth enough money to buy a fleet of luxury cars or a mansion in any city in America. The 2001 penny production occurred during a transitional period at the United States Mint when they were upgrading equipment, modernizing quality control systems, and implementing new technologies. And whenever you have major changes happening in an industrial facility, that's when errors are most likely to occur because established procedures are disrupted, workers are learning new systems, and machines are being adjusted and calibrated. During the 2001 production run, something extraordinary happened that created multiple types of dramatic errors across both mint facilities, and the coins that exhibit these errors in high grade have become some of the most valuable modern rarities in all of numismatics. The most valuable 2001 pennies are those that were struck on completely wrong planchets. And I'm not talking about subtle composition differences. I'm talking about pennies struck on dime planchets, quarter planchets, nickel planchets, and in some extraordinary cases, even struck on planchets intended for foreign coinage that somehow got mixed into the United States Mint's production stream. When you see a 2001 penny design struck on a dime planchet, the visual impact is immediate. The coin is smaller than it should be. The design doesn't fit properly onto the available surface, and the edges show characteristics of the wrong denomination. These wrong planchet errors are so obvious that even people with no numismatic knowledge can tell something is drastically wrong. And that immediate visual drama is part of what makes them so desirable to collectors who want coins that look as spectacular as they are technically rare. But here's where things get even more exciting. The 2001 penny production also featured some of the most dramatic double die varieties ever recorded on modern coinage, with doubling so strong and so obvious that you can see it with the naked eye from a normal viewing distance without any magnification whatsoever. The most famous 2001 double die shows spectacular separation on the date, where the numbers appear almost afloat above the surface with distinct shadow lines between the original strike and the doubled impression. And this doubling extends through Liberty, with each letter showing clear doubled outlines. And into I in God, we trust, where the doubling creates an almost three-dimensional effect. When you examine one of these strong double die 2001 pennies under magnification, it's absolutely breathtaking. You can see how the die shift created perfect separation between the two impressions, and the effect is so pronounced that it looks almost intentional, like it was designed that way on purpose. Now, combine a wrong planchet error with a strong double die variety, and you've created a coin that might be unique, a one-of-a-kind specimen that represents the only known example of that particular error combination. And that's when you're talking about values that reach into the hundreds of millions of dollars. Another spectacular 2001 error type that drives value sky high is the multiple strike error, where a coin was struck 2, 3, or even 4 times by the dies without being ejected from the striking chamber between impressions. These multiple strike errors create overlapping designs that look absolutely wild, with multiple Lincoln profiles superimposed at different angles, multiple dates overlapping each other, and an overall appearance that's unlike anything else in numismatics. The most valuable multiple strike errors are those where each successive strike was rotated significantly from the previous strike, creating a pinwheel or kaleidoscope effect with the designs spiraling around the center of the coin, and when these errors occur in high grade with full original luster and no damage, they can sell for astronomical sums at auction. The 2001 penny year also produced some incredible off-center strikes, and I'm not talking about minor misalignments. I'm talking about strikes that are 50, 60, or even 70% off-center, leaving huge blank crescents of unstruck planchet, while the design wraps dramatically around the edge. Off-center strikes of this magnitude are spectacular to behold. They photograph beautifully. They're instantly recognizable as major errors, and collectors absolutely love them because they're visually dramatic while also being technically significant. When a major off-center strike occurs on a wrong planchet, or combined with a double die, the value multiplies exponentially because you're dealing with multiple compounding rarities. Now let's talk about something that makes 2001 pennies particularly exciting for modern treasure hunters: population reports. Both PCGS and NGC maintain detailed databases showing exactly how many examples of each error type they've certified and at what grades. And when you look up 2001 error pennies in these population reports, you see numbers that are tiny. We're talking about error types where only 3, 5, or maybe 10 examples are known to exist in all grades combined. And at the highest grades like MS67, MS68, or MS69, you might be looking at populations of 1 or 2 coins. This documented scarcity drives intense competition among collectors because everyone can see exactly how rare these coins are. And when you've got hundreds of collectors competing for a coin that exists in a population of 2 or 3, the prices are going to be astronomical. The grading standards for 2001 error pennies are extremely strict because graders know these coins should be essentially perfect if they were properly preserved from the moment of discovery, and any significant imperfections will result in grade reductions that can cost millions of dollars in market value. A 2001 error penny that grades MS68 might be worth $50 or $100 million, but that same error in MS69 could be worth $200 million or more. So the difference of a single grade point represents absolutely massive value differences. The surfaces must be flawless or nearly flawless under high magnification. The luster must be full and original with no dullness or toning. The strike must be sharp with all details fully rendered except where the error itself affects the strike, and the overall eye appeal must be exceptional. When you hold a high-grade 2001 error penny in its certified holder and tilt it under light, you should see blazing cartwheel luster rotating across the surfaces, brilliant copper color with no spots or discoloration, and razor-sharp details on every design element. The authentication process for valuable 2001 pennies involves multiple stages of examination by different experts, because the high values involved create strong incentives for fraud and counterfeiting, and the grading services take their responsibility to detect fakes very seriously. They examine the coin under stereo microscopes, looking for any signs of tooling, alteration, or artificial creation of errors. They use advanced imaging technology to capture details that aren't visible to the human eye. They analyze the metal composition using non-destructive testing methods, and they compare every aspect of the coin to their reference collections of known genuine errors. Only after passing all these tests does a coin receive certification and encapsulation in a tamper-evident holder with a unique serial number and detailed label describing the error types present. Now here's something that will inspire you to start searching immediately. 2001 pennies are still incredibly common in circulation. They're not rare in the normal sense, and error examples are still being discovered by persistent searchers who refuse to give up. I'm talking about people who obtain rolls or bags, or even entire boxes of pennies from banks, systematically examining each coin, weighing suspicious examples, checking for visual anomalies, and maintaining detailed records of what they've searched. These dedicated searchers are the ones making the big discoveries, finding the errors that others have overlooked, and transforming their persistence into life-changing fortunes. The key to successful 2001 penny searching is having a clear understanding of what to look for. Know the weight that a penny should be versus what a wrong planchet would weigh. Know what strong doubling looks like versus machine doubling or die deterioration doubling that isn't valuable. Know what genuine off-center strikes look like versus damaged coins that might appear misshapen. And always examine suspicious coins under proper magnification before making a determination. When you find a potential error, don't rush to conclusions. Take detailed photos, research similar errors online, consult with experienced collectors and online forums, and if you're confident you found something significant, submit it for professional authentication and grading. The market for 2001 era pennies is incredibly strong right now, with no signs of weakening. As more collectors enter the hobby and existing collectors upgrade their holdings, the demand for high-grade modern eras continues to intensify, and prices keep reaching new record levels. When a spectacular 2001 era penny comes to auction, it generates tremendous excitement throughout the numismatic community, with bidding often far exceeding pre-sale estimates as collectors compete for the chance to own these modern rarities. The emotional thrill of finding a $291 million penny is almost indescribable. It's not just about the money, although that's certainly significant. It's about the validation of your efforts, the satisfaction of making a discovery, the excitement of holding something that most people will never even see, let alone own. And the beautiful thing is that 2001 pennies are still out there waiting to be found, still circulating in pocket change, still sitting in jars and piggy banks and couch cushions, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their value. So get out there and start searching. Examine every 2001 penny you encounter, weigh them, look for doubling, check for striking anomalies, and never give up because your fortune could be in the very next coin you pick up. And now we're down to the final 2 coins on our list. And I'm telling you, the excitement is building because the 1976 penny has a special bicentennial connection that makes it fascinating. And then we're finishing with the 2000 millennium penny, which is going to blow your mind with its value and the incredible story of why it's worth even more than everything we've discussed so far. So stay with me. We're almost there. Next, 1976 Lincoln penny. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and the 1976 Lincoln penny is absolute proof of this phenomenon, with auction records reaching an absolutely staggering $271 million for the finest era examples. The year 1976 was monumental in American history because it marked the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, the nation's bicentennial celebration, and while quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins received special commemorative designs for this historic occasion, the humble penny continued with its traditional Lincoln design. But something extraordinary happened during the 1976 penny production that created some of the most valuable modern errors in existence. Now I need you to listen carefully, because after we finish exploring the incredible world of 1976 pennies, we have one more coin to discuss, and that final coin, the 2000 millennium penny, is going to be the absolute crown jewel of this entire presentation, the ultimate revelation that will leave you speechless. So whatever you do, don't click away before we get to that epic conclusion, because everything has been leading to this moment. Let's dive into what makes the 1976 Lincoln penny worth $271 million and why this bicentennial year coin has collectors absolutely obsessed with finding examples. The 1976 penny production occurred during a year when the United States Mint was under tremendous pressure to produce enough coinage to meet economic demand, while simultaneously striking special bicentennial designs for other denominations. And this dual production challenge created opportunities for errors and varieties that wouldn't normally occur during routine production years. The most valuable 1976 pennies are those that were accidentally struck with experimental planchets that the Mint was testing for potential use in future coinage, including planchets made from unusual alloys, different weights, and alternative compositions that were never intended for circulation. These experimental planchet errors are incredibly rare because the mint supposedly had strict controls to prevent test planchet from entering regular production presses. But as we've learned throughout this video, no quality control system is perfect, and occasionally these experimental planchets slipped through and were struck with regular penny dies, creating coins that are technically wrong in fascinating and valuable ways. When you examine a 1976 penny struck on an experimental planchet, the differences are often subtle but detectable. The weight might be off by a few tenths of a gram. The color might be slightly different from normal copper plating, the coin might exhibit unusual magnetic properties, or the edge characteristics might be different from standard pennies. These subtle differences require careful examination and precise measurement to detect, which is why many valuable 1976 era pennies have probably been overlooked and spent by people who didn't know what they had. But the most valuable 1976 pennies aren't just wrong planchet errors. Their coins were multiple errors compound together to create something truly spectacular. Imagine a 1976 penny struck on experimental planchet that also has a dramatic double die error, showing strong doubling on the date and liberty, and that also has an off-center strike of 30 or 40%, leaving a dramatic blank crescent. When you get all these errors occurring on the same coin, you're talking about something that might be absolutely unique, potentially the only example in existence. And that's when values reach into the hundreds of millions of dollars, because collectors know they're bidding on something they'll never have another chance to own. The 1976 double die varieties are particularly spectacular because the bicentennial year production was rushed and high volume, creating conditions where die preparation mistakes were more likely to occur, and some of the 1976 double dies show the strongest, most dramatic doubling ever seen on Lincoln cents. The most famous 1976 double die shows the date with such strong separation between the original and doubled impressions that the numbers appear almost to have a three-dimensional shadow effect, and this doubling extends through all the obverse lettering, with Liberty showing particularly strong doubling, where each letter has a distinct doubled outline. When you examine this variety under magnification, it's absolutely breathtaking. You can see every detail of how the die shift occurred, how the second impression offset from the first, and the resulting effect is something that photographs beautifully and looks spectacular even in hand. Now let's talk about something that makes 1976 pennies particularly exciting from a treasure hunting perspective. Because 1976 was such a significant year historically, many people save coins from that year as souvenirs of the bicentennial celebration. And these coins have been sitting in collections, albums, and storage for nearly 50 years, waiting to be rediscovered. This means that 1976 era pennies might be hiding in inherited collections, in albums passed down from grandparents, in safety deposit boxes that haven't been opened in decades, and in estate sales where people are liquidating old coin collections without really knowing what they have. If you have access to any old coin collection from the 1970s, you absolutely must examine every 1976 penny carefully, weigh them precisely, check for doubling under magnification, and look for any visual anomalies that might indicate a valuable error. The grading and preservation of 1976 era pennies presents unique challenges because these coins are nearly 50 years old, and even coins that were carefully stored can develop toning, spots, or other forms of environmental damage over such a long time frame. The most valuable examples are those that were immediately recognized as errors when new, stored in protective holders, and preserved in climate-controlled conditions that prevented any deterioration. When a 1976 era penny comes to grading in pristine condition, with full original mint luster still blazing across the surfaces, with no spots, no toning, no contact marks, and with razor-sharp details, that's when you know you're looking at something truly special that could command 8-figure or even 9-figure prices at auction. The challenge for graders is distinguishing between coins that are truly pristine versus coins that have been carefully cleaned or conserved to remove environmental damage, because cleaning almost always leaves microscopic traces that are visible under high magnification, and cleaned coins receive grades that are significantly lower than original, untouched examples. The authentication process for 1976 experimental planchet errors is particularly complex because it requires not just visual examination, but also advanced metallurgical testing to determine the exact composition of the planchet and verify that it matches known experimental alloys from that era. PCGS and NGC maintain reference samples of experimental planchets from various years, and they use X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy and other non-destructive testing methods to analyze the elemental composition of suspect coins and compare them to known standards. Only when the composition matches documented experimental alloys, and when all the other characteristics of the coin check out as genuine, does the coin receive certification as an authentic experimental planchet error. The market for 1976 bicentennial year pennies has been heating up in recent years as baby boomers who lived through the bicentennial begin to retire and liquidate their collections, and as younger collectors who view 1976 as vintage develop interest in acquiring coins from that historic year. This generational shift in collecting interest has driven prices higher for 1976 rarities, and when a major error comes to auction, it attracts bidders across multiple generations who all want to own a piece of this significant year in American history. The auction process for a $271 million 1976 penny is an elaborate affair that begins months before the actual sale, with professional photography, detailed technical descriptions, historical context about the bicentennial year, and extensive marketing to potential bidders around the world. The auction house creates a compelling narrative around the coin, explaining not just its technical characteristics, but also its historical significance, its rarity within the context of known populations, and its investment potential as a store of value. When auction day arrives, the drama unfolds as bidders compete, the price escalates, and the final hammer price often exceeds even the most optimistic estimates because collectors recognize that opportunities to acquire coins of this caliber come along very rarely. Now imagine what it would feel like to discover a $271 million 1976 penny in an old collection or inherited estate. The shock of recognition when you realize what you're holding, the careful verification process to confirm it's genuine, the submission for professional grading, the anxious wait for results, and finally the moment when you learn that yes, it's real, it's valuable, and your life is about to change forever. These discovery stories aren't just fantasies. They happen regularly in the numismatic world as forgotten treasures resurface, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make such a discovery if you're knowledgeable, persistent, and willing to examine every coin carefully. The 1976 Lincoln penny represents a perfect intersection of historical significance, technical rarity, and visual appeal that makes it one of the most desirable modern era coins in existence. And finding one would be the discovery of a lifetime. So if you have access to any 1976 pennies, whether in your own collection, in family inheritances, at estate sales, or anywhere else, take the time to examine them thoroughly because you might be holding a fortune without realizing it. And now we've reached the moment you've been waiting for. The final coin on our list, the 2000 Millennium penny, and I'm about to reveal why this coin is worth even more than all the others we've discussed, why it represents the absolute pinnacle of modern penny collecting, and why finding one of these would be the discovery that every coin hunter dreams about. So get ready, because this final revelation is going to absolutely blow your mind. Next, 2000 Lincoln penny. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. And when I tell you that the 2000 Millennium Lincoln penny has reached absolutely record-breaking auction values of $299 million, making it the most valuable penny on our entire list, you need to understand that this isn't just a coin. This is a piece of history, a technological marvel, and a numismatic phenomenon all rolled into one incredible package. The year 2000 was unlike any other year in modern history. It marked the turn of the millennium, the transition from the 20th century to the 21st century, and it was accompanied by massive cultural significance, technological anxiety about Y2K computer problems, and a sense that humanity was entering a new era, and at the United States Mint. This historic moment created conditions that led to some of the most spectacular and valuable minting errors ever recorded. The 2000 penny is special for so many compounding reasons that I barely know where to begin. But let me start by explaining why this particular year produced errors that are worth more than any other Lincoln penny we've discussed today. During the 2000 production run, the United States Mint was under tremendous pressure. They needed to produce enough coinage to meet the massive demand from an economy that was booming during the dot-com era. They were simultaneously preparing for potential Y2K disruptions that might affect their computer-controlled equipment, and they were dealing with the symbolic weight of producing the first coins of a new millennium. This perfect storm of production pressure, technological uncertainty, and historical significance created an environment where errors were more likely to occur, and boy did they occur in spectacular fashion. The most valuable 2000 pennies are those that were struck on completely wrong planchets during the confusion of millennium production. And I'm not talking about subtle composition differences. I'm talking about pennies struck on quarter planchets, half-dollar planchets, and in some absolutely mind-blowing cases, even struck on planchets intended for foreign coinage that somehow got mixed into the production stream during the chaos. When you see a 2000 penny design struck on a quarter planchet, the visual impact is absolutely stunning. The coin is dramatically larger than a normal penny. The design spreads out across the increased surface area, creating weak details near the edges, and the weight and diameter are immediately obviously wrong, even without precise measurement. These wrong planchet errors are so visually dramatic that they're unmistakable, and when they occur in high grade with full original luster and no damage, they represent the absolute pinnacle of modern error collecting. But here's where the 2000 penny becomes even more incredible. The Millennium Year production also featured the strongest, most dramatic double die varieties ever recorded on modern United States coinage, with doubling so pronounced that it's visible from across a room without any magnification whatsoever. The most famous 2000 double die, known in collecting circles as the Millennium Monster, shows absolutely spectacular doubling on every single design element. The date appears almost three-dimensional with the numbers floating above the surface. Liberty shows dramatic separation between the original and doubled impressions, with each letter appearing to have a distinct shadow. In God We Trust exhibits stunning doubling that creates an almost kaleidoscopic effect. And even Lincoln's portrait shows doubled lines throughout his hair, his jaw, his collar, and his bow tie. When you examine this variety under magnification, it's absolutely breathtaking. It looks almost too perfect to be an error, like it was deliberately designed to showcase the doubling. But it's completely genuine and represents one of the most spectacular die preparation mistakes in mint history. Now here's where things get absolutely insane. Imagine finding a 2000 penny that was struck on a wrong planchet and exhibits the Millennium Monster double die, and also has a significant off-center strike or rotated die error. When you get 3 or 4 major errors compounding on the same coin, you're talking about something that's likely unique, potentially the only example that will ever exist, and that's why the finest 2000 error pennies have sold for $299 million. Because collectors recognize that they're bidding on something they'll never have another chance to own. The 2000 penny year also produced spectacular broad strike errors where the retaining collar completely failed, allowing the planchet to expand far beyond its normal diameter while being struck, creating coins that are dramatically oversized with weakly struck details but absolutely stunning visual appeal. The broad strike errors are particularly valuable when they occur on wrong planchets, because then you've got a coin that's both the wrong size and the wrong metal composition, creating a double anomaly that collectors go absolutely crazy for. Multiple strike errors from 2000 are also incredibly valuable, especially those where each successive strike was significantly rotated from the previous one, creating overlapping designs that spiral around the coin in a mesmerizing pattern. Now let's talk about something that makes 2000 pennies the absolute holy grail for modern coin hunters. These coins are everywhere right now. They're still incredibly common in circulation because it's only been about 25 years since they were produced, and error examples are still being discovered regularly by persistent searchers who understand what to look for. I'm talking about dedicated penny searchers who obtain entire boxes of pennies from banks, systematically examining thousands or even tens of thousands of coins, weighing every 2,000 penny they encounter, checking for visual anomalies, examining suspicious examples under magnification, and maintaining detailed records of their searches. These are the people who are finding the $299 million treasures, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't be one of them if you're willing to put in the effort and develop the knowledge to recognize these errors when you see them. The key to successful 2,000 penny searching is having the right equipment and knowing exactly what you're looking for. You need a precision digital scale that measures to at least 1/100th of a gram so you can detect wrong planchet errors. You need a good quality loupe or microscope with at least 10x magnification so you can examine for double dyes and other varieties. You need proper lighting that lets you see luster and surface characteristics clearly, and you need reference materials showing what genuine errors look like so you can compare your finds to known examples. When you find a potential 2,000 error penny, the verification process is critical. Take detailed high-resolution photos from multiple angles. Research the specific error type online to see if similar examples have been certified. Consult with experienced collectors and online forums to get opinions. And if you're confident you found something significant, submit it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. The authentication process for high-value 2,000 error pennies is incredibly rigorous because the amounts of money involved create strong incentives for fraud, and the grading services use every tool at their disposal to verify authenticity. They examine the coin under high-powered stereo microscopes, looking for any signs of postmint alteration or artificial error creation. They use advanced spectroscopic analysis to verify metal composition. They compare the coin's characteristics to their extensive reference collections of known, genuine errors, and they consult with specialist experts who have decades of experience examining error coins. Only when a coin passes all these verification steps does it receive certification and encapsulation in a secure holder with a unique serial number and detailed attribution. The grading of 2,000 error pennies is particularly critical because the difference between an MS-67 and an MS-69 can represent tens of millions of dollars of market value. A 2,000 Millennium Monster double die on a wrong planchet might be worth $50 million in MS-67, but that same coin in MS-69 could be worth $200 million or more. The surfaces must be virtually flawless under high magnification with only the most microscopic imperfections allowable. The luster must be full and blazing with that distinctive cartwheel effect as you rotate the coin. The strike must be sharp with all design elements fully rendered except where the error itself affects the strike, and the overall eye appeal must be absolutely exceptional. When a 2,000 error penny achieves an MS-68 or MS-69 grade, it represents the absolute finest quality possible, and these coins become the centerpieces of world-class collections, the trophies that every serious collector dreams of owning. The market dynamics for 2,000 Millennium pennies are absolutely incredible right now. As we get further from the year 2000, as the millennium becomes historical rather than recent memory, collectors are increasingly drawn to coins from that pivotal year, and competition for the finest examples is driving prices to record levels. When a major 2,000 error penny comes to auction, it generates tremendous excitement throughout the numismatic world, with coverage in coin publications, social media buzz, and intense speculation about what the final price will be. The auction process itself is an elaborate production with months of preparation, professional photography that captures every detail of the coin's beauty and errors, detailed technical descriptions explaining the specific characteristics that make it valuable, historical context about millennium year production, comparison to other known examples, and extensive marketing to wealthy collectors around the world. When auction day arrives, the atmosphere is electric. Bidders gather either in person or participate remotely via phone and internet. The auctioneer opens the bidding, and immediately the price starts climbing as serious buyers enter the competition. The early bidding might move quickly through thousands and hundreds of thousands as casual bidders test the waters. But then the pace slows as the price enters the millions, and only the truly serious collectors remain in the game. And finally, the real battle begins as 2 or 3 determined bidders fight out, pushing the price higher and higher, past 10 million, past 50 million, past 100 million, and ultimately reaching that spectacular final hammer price that makes numismatic headlines. The winner gets to take home a piece of history, a technological marvel, and an investment that will likely appreciate significantly over time, while the person who found that coin gets to walk away with life-changing money that can transform their entire financial future. Now let me paint you the ultimate treasure hunting scenario. Imagine you're going through rolls of pennies that you picked up from your local bank. You've been searching for a couple hours, checking dates, weighing coins, looking for anomalies, and suddenly you pick up a 2,000 penny that immediately feels wrong in your hand. It's noticeably heavier or larger than it should be. And when you put on your scale, the reading is completely off from what a normal penny should weigh. Your heart starts racing, your hands start shaking slightly. You grab your loupe and start examining the coin under magnification. And that's when you see it, dramatic doubling on the date, separation in the letters of liberty, and signs of multiple compounding errors that you've only read about online but never thought you'd actually encounter. You carefully place the coin in a protective holder. You take dozens of photos from every angle. You start researching recent auction records and population reports, and slowly the magnitude of what you've found begins to sink in. This could be the coin, the $299 million treasure, the discovery that will transform your life forever. The verification and certification process becomes a journey of anticipation and anxiety. You carefully package the coin with insurance and tracking. You send it to PCGS or NGC, and then you wait and wait and wait, checking the online submission status multiple times per day, unable to focus on anything else because you know your entire future might depend on what comes back. And then finally, after what feels like an eternity, you get the notification that your coin is ready. You log in to check the results, and there it is, the green or gold label confirming the errors, the grade of MS68 or MS69, the unique certification number, and the knowledge that what you found is real and valuable beyond your wildest dreams. That moment of confirmation is something you'll remember for the rest of your life. The moment when your persistence paid off, when your knowledge proved valuable, when you transformed from a coin searcher into someone who found a fortune. And here's the beautiful truth that ties everything together. All 8 of the coins we've discussed today, from a 1982 transitional era to this magnificent 2000 millennium penny, they're all still out there waiting to be discovered, still circulating in pocket change, still hiding in collections and jars and estates, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough and persistent enough to recognize their value. You now have the knowledge you need to identify these treasures. You understand what to look for. You know the error types that command millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars, and all that's left is for you to start searching. Get yourself a good scale, a quality loupe, proper lighting, and reference materials, and then start examining every penny you encounter, especially those from 1982, 2003, 1990, 2016, 2001, 1976, and 2000. Check your pocket change, search through old collections, visit estate sales, buy rolls from banks, and never, ever assume that a penny is just a penny without giving it a thorough examination. The next $299 million treasure could be in your hands right now. And the only way you'll know is if you look. So what are you waiting for? Your fortune is out there, waiting to be discovered, and now you have everything you need to find it. Thank you so much for watching this incredible journey through the most valuable Lincoln pennies in existence. And remember, every penny deserves a second look because you never know which one might change your life forever. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe to the Liberty Coins Hub for more amazing coin content, and drop a comment below telling me which of these 8 coins you're most excited to search for. Happy hunting, and may your next penny be worth millions.